Your Detroit Pistons return to action from All-Star break tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We heard from Dwane Casey yesterday. We're going to talk about some of the things we heard from him, such as Kelly Olynyk, Jeremy Grant, and possibly seeing some new faces get some playing time down the stretch. Hear all about that on today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't hit the subscribe button already, what are you waiting for? You're coming for the content every day. Go ahead and help us get to 2,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Continue to show Locked On Network. We are the fastest and best growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, head to the YouTube channel if you haven't already at Locked On Pistons. Hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, the Pistons are returning from All-Star break tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. There are some injuries going on there. Darius Garland will not be playing in this game. Karis LeVert will not be playing in this game. Frank Jackson, however, looks like he may make his return tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is probable with back spasms. And so is Lauri Markkanen for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's probable with the right ankle sprain. So hopefully the Pistons get Frank Jackson back. This team really has struggled just to be at full health all season. And that will carry us into what we wanted to talk about that we heard from Dwane Casey last night. Or not last night, but yesterday. Every few days, Dwane Casey and a player goes on Zoom and they have some interviews and they answer some questions from practice, etc. And Dwane Casey mentioned that he thought yesterday, that Kelly Olynyk and Jeremy Grant had played probably one of their best games of the entire season right before the break against the Boston Celtics. And he mentioned how Kelly Olynyk had been dealing with COVID. He had injury. He had been struggling, but he hopes that this is a reason, or the last game, he's hoping that's a sign of things to come. So I just want to talk about that real quick. We've talked about Jeremy Grant plenty on the podcast. We've talked about his fit with Cunningham, his fit with Saddiq Bey, how they have to try and make that work, trying to cut out a little bit of his isolations. In the game against Boston, they did cut that out a lot. He played off the ball a lot. He fed off ball. He scored a lot in cutting situations. He scored a lot in catch and shoot situations. And then late, yes, he did hit that turnaround jump shot that he created for himself to win the Pistons the game. But his overall game, the reason why the Pistons offense flowed so much better, and he looked so much better within the Pistons offense because he took a little bit of a backseat and let the game come to him and let his teammates create for him. And he looked really good in that role, which everyone knows he can look good in. It's just a matter of will he accept that role. So I think everyone knows that's where we're at with Jeremy. We've talked about that plenty some. I want to kind of talk about Kelly Olynyk because Kelly Olynyk was Troy Weaver's prize signing in the offseason. So far, Kelly Olynyk has only played 21 games this year. Now, he's dealt with multiple injuries. He dealt with COVID. I believe he dealt with COVID twice, and that held him out some games. So obviously, it hasn't gone as planned. It hasn't gone how Troy Weaver probably wanted it to go. And on this season, Kelly Olynyk is shooting 40% from the field, 29% from deep, 68% from the free throw line. All of these would be career lows for Kelly Olynyk in his career. Not exactly how you want things to go on a guy you just paid $12 million in the offseason. And specifically for a guy who is brought and is going to be key in this team's development of the young ball handlers. In the offseason, when we talked about this, I told you guys I either wanted a lob threat, or if they want to go a different route, get a guy who can spread the floor out to 5, some kind of way to create open driving lanes and, space the floor out and properly space the floor, I should say, and help their young ball handlers. And without Kelly Olynyk in the lineup, it's really hurt. And when he's been in the lineup recently, it just hasn't went well, even with him in the lineup, because he just hasn't been healthy, or he's been dealing with the after effects of COVID, wherever you want to go with. It just hasn't been working that well. And for the first 10 games of this season, he did shoot 46% from the field, 34% from deep, 60% from the free throw line. All of those, his field goal percentage is fine, but even his three-point percentage of free throw line before he got hurt, the first 10 games of the season when the entire team was struggling to do anything, even that's not where he's been throughout his entire career. And since coming back from injury on January 19th, and he missed a few games after that with COVID and coming back again, he is now shooting 24% from deep, 33% from the field, and 86% from the free throw line. It just hasn't been. It hasn't went that well for him. And the Pistons, I think, desperately need him to perform well down the stretch to get a fair or to try to help develop some of these younger guys, specifically try to make their lives, the young ball handlers, easy. And I know a lot of people are going to assume I'm talking about Killian Hayes. Yes, I think he'll help Killian Hayes as well if he can space the floor and actually make defenses pay for it and play well. I think he could help them. But also Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is being asked to do a lot in this team. His usage rate is really high in this team. He's faced the most double teams of any rookie in this class. He's being tasked with doing a lot. He's seeing so much from defenses, and defenses are keying in so much on him because they don't respect anybody else on the floor, basically. They're not respecting the other players. They're saying, hey, Cade, we're going to take the ball out of your hands. We're going to try to make Saddiq Bey do something with the ball in his hands. We're going to try to make Jeremy Grant do something with the ball in his hands. And I feel like Kelly Olynyk can really help that. He can help Killian when spacing the floor and give him a pick and pop partner. He can help take some pressure off of Cade Cunningham. If they want to double, you have a guy who can hit outside shots. So if you double Cade Cunningham, you're going to be picking your poison. Either you take the ball out of Cade's hands and give up an open three, or let Cade see a normal defense, see the defense in front of him, his defender, and help defense, not just a flat-out double team. I feel like Killian Hayes is one of the key things to watch for down the stretch of the season. They need him to perform well. They need him to shoot well from deep. They need him to play better offensively, and not even just offensively either. They need him to act like he actually cares defensively. Like, he's not a good defender, but over the last few weeks before the All-Star break, like, he was just actively not even trying defensively. He wasn't even moving around. Like, legit, I made the joke on Twitter that he was moving slower than George Blaha. And while that is a joke, obviously, he was moving relatively slow, like even slow for Kelly Olynyk standards. Slow offensively, slow defensively, choosing not to close out on guys, choosing not to make the extra rotation, choosing not to be a smart team defender. Like, overall, he just has not been that good outside that last game against the Boston Celtics. So I think, like I said, we've talked a lot about Jeremy Grant, but Kelly Olynyk, I think, is key down the stretch for this team. Whether he's starting at the 5, whether he's backup 5, whether he's a backup 4 with Marvin Bagley, however they want to do it. And actually, that's a whole different avenue you could go there, is that he has to figure out how to play with Marvin Bagley to best optimize Marvin Bagley for the Pistons down the stretch. If they're going to try to develop this dude, Marvin Bagley, and they want to put him at the higher part of their priority list, their other big man needs to learn how to play with them. And it was evident over the first few games that they played together. Now, obviously, they didn't have much time to practice, so you expect this, but they struggled a little bit to play together. The lineups were clunky. The offensive spacing was a little bit clunky. So that's expected when they first become teammates and get to play. Dwane Casey did say Marvin Bagley got a playbook over the All-Star break, and he's been studying it. So, again, Kelly Olynyk, there's so many different avenues that he can help Marvin Bagley, fitting with him, helping Killian Hayes space the floor, help take some of that pressure off of Cade Cunningham. He just needs to play better. I think he's going to be a key part down the stretch and something the team needs to watch for. And also the fact, and we said this a few podcasts ago, and then we'll end it here, whether it's been injury or COVID, I mean, those are reasons. But so far, the signing that Troy Weaver has made, the $12 million he invested in Kelly Olynyk, simply has not worked out yet. You can give me the reasons why it hasn't worked out, but it just hasn't worked out. And you'd like to see it start to look good at some point, especially if you're Troy Weaver. So I think Kelly Olynyk is someone you guys need to be watching for down the stretch. And hopefully he plays well, because the Pistons desperately need it. When we come back, we'll talk about some new faces Dwane Casey has said that he is thinking about or is looking to getting a better look at down the stretch of these games. Who am I talking about? We'll talk about that when we come back from the ad break. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, BetOnline.net. The football season might be over with my guy, my quarterback, Matthew Stafford, winning the damn Super Bowl. Let's go, Stafford. Let's go 9. But basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, and player performance props to where the next head coach is going to be fired, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action today. Again, head to their website today, BetOnline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button at Locked On Pistons. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't hit the subscribe button already, what are you waiting for? You're coming for the content every single day during the week. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. And we're heading to 2,000 subscribers. We are just under 250 subscribers away. Let's try to get there as soon as possible. Continue to show Locked On Network. We are the fastest and best growing fan base at the Locked On Network. But let's talk about some other things that we heard from Dwane Casey. Obviously, I feel like the Pistons have gotten a look at, or Pistons fans, I should say, have gotten a look at a lot of players for this team, even players drafted in the second round. You got a little bit of a look at Jamarco Pickett at one point this season. A little bit of a look of not Isaiah Stewart, Luka Garza. You got to look at Saban Lee. They've probably gotten a little bit too much of a look of Rodney McGruder. I'm sure we're all probably sick of seeing him. But so far, it seems like almost every single person on this roster you have gotten to look at some point this season. You've gotten an extended look or at least a couple games to look at one of these guys, each guy on the roster, except for two guys. And that's Isaiah Livers and Chris Smith. Now, Chris Smith was coming off a major knee injury, and he's been out for a long time, and he's been playing with the G League over recently. I don't pay attention to the G League. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't. If you do pay attention to the G League, let me know what you guys have seen from them. But yeah, I haven't paid much attention to the G League. I know Chris Smith was an interesting talent before the draft, but he had that major injury that he suffered. But then also Isaiah Livers. Everyone knows about Isaiah Livers. He's a Michigan guy just last year. But he has been dealing with an injury as well, a broken foot coming into the season, kept him out for a while. And when he came back, I believe he did end up playing one game for the Pistons. He may have played two. Actually, let me go ahead and just double check and confirm that with you guys right here. Either way, yeah, he only played one game for the Pistons. And outside of that, we just haven't seen this guy. And when he went back, I even had some of you guys commenting on the YouTube channel, tweeting at me saying, hey, what's the word on Isaiah Livers? Because he just played that one game for the Pistons and we just never heard of him again. Because he did go back down to the G League. He had one really good game and then he just disappeared again. And everyone was like, well, what's going on with Isaiah Livers? We just haven't heard anything about him. Like, what's going on? But as of yesterday, we did get some kind of update. Now, I did just, as I'm recording this, I went on Twitter and I saw that he had a massive highlight where he dunked on someone in the G League tonight, or last night when you guys listen to this. So he is playing in the G League right now, him and Chris Smith. But Dwane Casey went out of his way to say that Isaiah Livers is a guy who has missed most of the season with a foot injury, and he's a guy we want to look at and evaluate and see how he fits in. Now, and then he also went on to add that he wants to get a look at Chris Smith as well. Now, I'm sure that's all fun and fine and dandy and stuff. Fans like to hear that. We get to see a new guy, see how he works. Everyone's always interested in seeing the new shiny toy. It keeps things interesting, keeps things fun. But it's going to be interesting how they do this. Because I'm trying to find a way where they find time for these guys. I just don't see where this time is opening up. You got Cade and Killian, who's going to be getting playing time. You got Saddiq Bey, Hamidou Diallo, and Frank Jackson, who are getting playing time. You got Jeremy Grant, Marvin Bagley, who are getting playing time. And you got Isaiah Stewart and Kelly Olynyk, who are getting playing time. Now, Rodney McGruder has been getting some minutes recently, but that's because Frank Jackson's been out. And I'm going to hope that when Frank Jackson comes back, if it's tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers, you will no longer be seeing Rodney McGruder. At least that's my hope. And if that's the case, where are you finding time for Isaiah Livers and Chris Smith? Maybe like the last 10 games of the season when the Pistons will just shut down some of their veterans, like if they shut down Kelly Olynyk or they shut down Jeremy Grant. But they may not even do that. I don't know if they'll just straight up shut these guys down. I know they did that last year with Jeremy and Mason Plumlee. But will they shut these guys down? I don't know. So assuming that they don't get shut down, where are you finding minutes for? Isaiah Livers is like a small forward, power forward hybrid kind of thing. You're not going to take minutes away from Marvin Bagley because you're also trying to get a look at him. You're not going to take minutes away from Saddiq Bey because he's Saddiq Bey. Maybe Hamidou Diallo loses some minutes. I don't know. I'd be shocked if he did because Dwane Casey spoke highly about how he's earned his minutes. I don't know. Do you take minutes away from Kelly Olynyk? I don't know because we just heard Dwane Casey say that he's happy to see Kelly Olynyk play well before the All-Star break. He's hoping he continues that to end the season. So while the coach speak is cool and everything, I just find it hard to see how he's actually going to say this, or not say that, how he's actually going to do this. Part of me believes, I'm not going to lie, part of me believes that this is just coach speak. He's giving fans what they want to hear, and trying to keep fans interested and trying to talk to their guys in the locker room, like give Isaiah Livers the idea, like, listen, we're going to give you a chance here. You're a part of this. We want to evaluate you. We want to see how you fit in. Like, keep him working hard and make him feel better. And also, like I said, give some stuff to the fans. But in reality, I just struggle to see where they're going to find this time for Chris Smith too. Chris Smith, I don't know much about Chris Smith at all. I'm shooting he's like a shooting guard, small forward kind of guy. Just who are you taking minutes from? The Pistons usually go as like a 10-man rotation. So you got Cade, Corey, and I didn't even mention Corey Joseph, Cade Cunningham, Corey Joseph, Sadiq, Jeremy, and Isaiah Stewart at the starting five. Then you got your backup and Killian Hayes, Frank Jackson, Hamidou Diallo, Kelly Olynyk, and then Marvin Bagley. That's 10 right there. And then you're not even including Saban Lee, Rodney Magruder, who Dwane Casey absolutely just loves playing, and Luka Garza, who I'm sure they'd like to get a look at as well down the stretch. Even though they've got a decent look at him, he's played quite a few games this season for the Pistons. At the end of the season is usually a time when teams try to get looks at young guys. But what's different for the Pistons is that they don't just have like a bunch of old guys that they can just sit at the end of the season. The guys that they're getting looks at are also in the starting lineup. They're also trying to get a look at Isaiah Stewart, see him develop. They're also trying to see Cade Cunningham develop. They're also trying to see Sadiq develop, Marvin Bagley, Killian Hayes, Hamidou Diallo, Frank Jackson. So like, I'm just struggling to see where this is going to happen. I'm interested. If it does happen, I'll be interested to see it. Isaiah Livers, before the draft, I talked to some draft guys. We had some draft guys on the podcast. And I think all of them, if you guys remember that far, all of them basically said, hey, he's not going to be a guy that knocks your shoes off. He's not going to be some star in the league. He's probably not going to even be a starter. But he has the skill set to where he can be like a role player for like the next 10 to 12 years. He's a guy he can play defense, be okay defensively, and hit open shots down. He's a good three-point shooter. And that kind of guy at his size should be a decent role player for like 10 to 12 years. Maybe not 25 minutes a game, like maybe 15 to 20 minutes a game, but that's a decent role to carve out for yourself as a second-round pick. And he's a Michigan guy, and everyone loves Michigan guys, especially if you're watching the Detroit Pistons, you're likely from Michigan, and you're either a Michigan State fan or Michigan fan. Either way, you usually root for guys who went to school in your state, and guys like Isaiah Livers. So it'll be interesting to see him. I'm not as much interested in Chris Smith. I know I've seen that he had a bit of buzz before the draft, before he had that major injury, and that kind of forced him to fall how he did. But Isaiah Livers, I think, is the more interesting watch here. And again, I'd like to see it. I'm just confused, and I'm struggling to see how they find these minutes for these guys. But when they do, it'll be interesting to watch. Definitely interesting, fun to see. And again, Isaiah Livers is the guy I'd watch for. He's supposed to be this three-point shooter, decent defender, a guy who can carve out a role on the bench. And again, this is something we've talked about with Isaiah Stewart, even though we're going a little bit more extreme with Isaiah Livers. But not every guy you draft, not every guy you sign, not every guy you bring in has to be a starter or a star to be a part of your future. If you get a second-round draft pick and he turns out to be like to carve out a good role and a future role for your team as like the 8th or 9th guy on your team in the second round, that's a hit. That's a really good hit. Most second-round guys don't survive in the NBA. So if the Pistons, let's say Isaiah Livers turns out that, hey, this is a guy who can be like our 8th or 9th guy. He can swallow up 15 to 20 minutes a game and give us threes and play adequate defense. That's a good piece that you found in the second round. Like, you can piece those guys together. Just because the Pistons do need star talent. They do need a lot of talent. They do need starting talent. But in order to be a good team, you also need depth. So if the Pistons are able to find guys like Isaiah Livers, let's say he plays well at the end of the season, they find ways to play him and he plays well, and they feel highly about him. If they can find guys like that in the second round who fill out like the 10th, 9th, 8th spot on your roster when you're trying to be good, you're doing a pretty damn good job. It's not just the first round at the top of the draft where you win in these drafts. If you're able to find hidden gems in the second round that are able to play in the NBA for 10 years as just a role player, that's a major hit. So, again, I'd like to see Isaiah Livers play. I'd like to see some of Chris Smith, I guess. But it's going to be interesting to see how Dwane Casey pulls it off. Because right now, I've been looking at it for like the past hour and a half before I started recording. And I'm just struggling to see where he's fitting these minutes in. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see it. And good luck to you, Dwane Casey. I don't want to be in your position. This is the one time where I'll sit here and say I do not want to be in Dwane Casey's position. Because I don't know who you're going to cut minutes and how you're going to do that. So we'll see how it goes, though. and see when that actually starts. We have 24 games left. When does he start to try to get looks at Isaiah Livers or Chris Smith? Does it start tonight against Cleveland? Does it start next week? Are we talking like the last 10 games, last 5 games? Like, when's it going to happen? We'll just have to wait and see. Interesting topic for sure. If you guys want to keep up with these guys, definitely go check out the Pistons G League team. They're playing a lot there. And again, like I said, right before I started recording this, I did see that Isaiah Livers put a guy on a poster. So I'm sure guys are having a lot of fun watching them down there when the Pistons are not on. So when we come back, we're going to bring it back, man. I think it's been close to a year now. Actually, no, it hasn't. Not quite a year. It's been probably like 10 months. 8 to 10 months. We're bringing the draft lottery simulator back. We're going to sim the lottery every single day, and we're going to see where the Pistons land. When you come back from the ad break, I'll tell you where they landed on this lottery sim I just simmed. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? Is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the part on their computers, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when you're using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store, only $216 from Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselves for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even a new carpet. We encourage you to go and discover your own car part needs and discover how rockauto.com can help and share with your friends and family. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. So again, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's the best way to support the podcast. We are nearing in on 2,000 subscribers. We are just under 250 subscribers away. So again, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Continue to show Locked On Network we are the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. But we're bringing back the Tankathon, the NBA Draft Lottery Simulator. So right now, the Pistons sit at the second most odds in the league. Number 1 is Orlando. However, I'll just update you guys real quick for those of you guys who may not know who are listening. Everyone in the top 4 or in the top 3 has the exact same odds at finishing top 4 and getting the first overall pick. They all have 52.1% at getting in the top 4, and they all have 14% of the number 1 overall pick. So right now, that's Orlando, Detroit, and Houston. The teams below them: Oklahoma City, 48.1% chance to stay in the top 4. Indiana, 42.1% to stay in the top 4. So the Pistons have pretty good odds. It's damn near 50-50 really to go top 4. Obviously, they had the best look of any team last year, and they finished first. Hopefully, we can see that happen this year, and hopefully it happens in this simulator. So let's go ahead and click sim. Guys, if you guys were listening last year and you guys remember last year, while the Pistons had luck in real life, they never had good luck in these simulators when I did them. And I was depressed almost every time we did them. And it always ruined my mood for the rest of the night. And it's continuing now with the first one ever today. What's today's date when I'm recording this? February 23rd. The first one we do of the season. Detroit falls to the 4. We got San Antonio jumping 7 spots to the number 1 overall pick. Like San Antonio still needs this type of luck, right? They just got done dealing with David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, just to transition right into Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge. And even now, they're not just flat out tanking. So yeah, I'm sure they need the luck, right? Like, come on. Then you got Indiana at 2, Sacramento at 3, and then Detroit at 4. Orlando dropped to 5. That's even worse. Actually, all the top 3 teams dropped. Detroit dropped, Orlando dropped to 5, Houston dropped to 6. This just wasn't a good one. This wasn't a good one for the top teams. Hopefully that's not how it plays out in the offseason. But yeah, man, the Pistons are back tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What will I be watching for in tonight's game? What should you guys be watching for in this game? First, obviously, you want to pay attention and make sure Frank Jackson, is he going to play tonight? And if he doesn't play, do we see one of Chris Smith or Isaiah Livers, or do we continue to see Ronnie Magruder? Again, I don't know if Ronnie Magruder is going to be taking the mid, or if Frank Jackson is taking some minutes from him, can be given to Chris Smith or Isaiah Livers, if they can like make a lineup and that works. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to watch if we do, since Dwane Casey just said that he wants to get a look at these guys. Does it start tonight against Cleveland? Watch for that. Also, I think the main thing that I think a lot of Pistons fans are going to be watching for the rest of the season, and we've talked about it already multiple times, but we're continuing to talk about the rest of the year, is how Marvin Bagley plays for the Detroit Pistons. How does he fit in? He only played a few games before the All-Star break. Dwane Casey did say, actually, Marvin Bagley only played 2 games before the All-Star break, to be exact. But Dwane Casey did say yesterday that they did give him the playbook over the All-Star break so he could study it and try to have a better idea on it. I don't know. I don't think they've practiced until yesterday. There was video of them practicing. There was a video tweeted out by, I believe, Rod Beard of the Detroit News of Marvin Bagley sitting after practice and, practicing his 3-ball from the corner. I think that was their first practice since the All-Star break. I think they were given a lot of days off. But it's nice to hear that Marvin Bagley was given a playbook and he's been studying it over the last week or so they can run more things. They can have more options in their toolbox when he's out there on the floor. And hopefully in that playbook, Dwane Casey kind of did some new things or incorporated some things to better use Marvin Bagley. We've talked about that a lot on the podcast, that in order to maximize Marvin Bagley and how he plays, you're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to change the team's mindset, the player's mindset, and try and add some things to your offense. And I think that's the main thing, absolute main thing the Pistons should watch, or Pistons fans should watch for tonight, is do they do that tonight against Cleveland? Do you see some lobs? Do you see some, him sitting in the dunker spot? Do you see them utilizing his explosiveness around the rim? Do they try to do that, or does he spot up more? Is Kelly Olynyk and him still running together? Are they still clunky on the offense? Do they try to run Marvin Bagley at the 5? Something we saw them start to do a little bit more in that second game. Do they close potentially with Marvin Bagley? Do they play Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Stewart together? All these kind of things. I think Marvin Bagley is the biggest pull right now, Pistons fans, the final stretch, and it starts against Cleveland tonight. I'm interested to see how they play him, especially against the front line of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know Lauri Markkanen may not play, even though they say that he's probable. You got Lauri Markkanen, Jared Allen, Kevin Love. You got Evan Mobley. You got a big front line there. So it's going to be a tall task for him, Isaiah Stewart, Kelly Olynyk. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dwane Casey does his rotations here and how he wants to utilize specifically Marvin Bagley against this front line of Cleveland, especially with the defensive monster that is Evan Mobley. So that's something I'll be watching for. And obviously, I want to see how Killian Hayes plays coming out of the break. We talked about this on the last podcast. You have to believe, like you just have to, that he's like kind of pissed that, he's seeing his other rookie guys playing the All-Star Weekend, Rising Stars Challenge. He's not there, and he was the number 7 overall pick. You have to assume that makes him pissed somewhat, and hopefully he comes out with like some fire immediately after the All-Star break. I want to see it tonight. I want to see Killian Hayes come out with some fire and come out aggressive. Now, if he comes out and he shoots like 2 of 10 or something, okay, he needs to play better. However, I'd probably still be happy that he came out with some fire attacking. I want to see him come out with some fire in him today, man. If it was me, I'm telling you guys straight up, if it was me and I was a top pick in the draft, and I'm watching my other fellow rookies on my team who were selected after me get to go to the Rising Stars All-Star Weekend and have fun, and I'm sitting back at home as the top pick, not doing anything, I'm coming out the next game firing everything. I'm letting it loose. There's not going to be anything left in my what was it? What was it? The quote that Tori Rivers said? My clip is always empty. That legit would be me. That would be me coming out the All-Star break. So I'd like to see that from Killian hopefully tonight. I want to see him be extremely aggressive and like turn his season around after this, because he should be playing with a chip on his shoulder. So we'll see if that happens. But outside of that, I don't got nothing else for you guys tonight. Have a fun time watching this game. Pistons are finally back. There's only 24 games left in the season, man. Season has kind of flown by, man. Sooner or later, the season's going to be over, and we're not going to have any Pistons basketball. As much, as I complain sometimes about how the basketball is and how well or how fun it is to watch the Pistons, as soon as the season ends, we all know that we all start missing it, and we want Pistons basketball back. So cherish these last 20 games or so. First one tonight. Have fun. Thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. head to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button at Locked On Pistons. I'd really appreciate it. Make sure you guys make Locked On NBA your second listen of every single day. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than just 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. And again, thank you guys for listening to today's podcast. Have fun tonight. Go Pistons. I'll see you guys in the next one. And until then, peace out, everybody.